It's 7 o'clock. Let's call the zoning commission meeting of October 16th to order. First order of business is we need one alternate for Jerry. He's not coming, so Tom. Do you know if Vaughn is going to come?
I don't.
I haven't seen him. Usually you see him around.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That might change.
might change. Okay. Let's see. The next order of business is the minutes of October 2nd. We noted, at least I noted a discrepancy between
You
what
did.
was on the tape,
Right.
what was said, and what was written.
Yeah, lines, okay, so it's line 79 on page, yeah, I guess it's line 79.
78, 79.
79.
In addition,
It begins, the sentence that begins with "in addition" through to the end of 79, vehicle movements. According to the tape which I listened to, the wording was, "The revised plan shall show concrete sidewalks in front of the addition," period. Did you get that? I think it's important that we make sure that the
Yeah.
wording of the
because those are very different.
wording of the minutes conforms to what actually was said. And have you looked at the videos?
No, because I'm usually here.
No, I know, but after the fact,
No.
online at SCTV, the quality of it is
Yeah, they're
phenomenal.
awesome.
They are really, really, I mean, we have to wear makeup here.
Oh, no.
All right, next order of business is approval of the minutes as modified. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Moved by
Second.
Mike, Kevin, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Minutes are approved. That's modified. First order of business is a public hearing, application 1740. Mr. Secretary, could you read that?
Oh, application 1740 of Tim Martin, owner, for a special exception pursuant to Article 7, Section C.8 of the Town of Simsbury zoning regulations for the development of a rear lot on the property located at Lark Road, Assessor's Map DO3, Block 208, Lot 003A, being shown on the map as included in Assessor's Map DO3, Block 208, Lot 003, Zone R40.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from this particular
Okay.
application.
So I think we should first hear from the owner. Proposal is?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Martin is here tonight, and Mr. Martin is the applicant.
How you doing? My name's Tim Martin. And first I want this affidavit on the signing. I don't know what you've heard about this property. Apparently it's the most valuable piece of property in the town of Simsbury. The town spent about $500,000 keeping it from being built on.
I'm sorry, could you state your name and your address, please?
Sure, my name's Tim Martin.
All right,
And I live at 11 Porter Street in Lakeville, Connecticut.
okay, thank you.
And like I said, this lot has been a contentious piece of property in town for whatever reason. For the last 2.5 years, I've been in state court, as you're sure you know. The last year and a half, we've been in federal court. We're now before the Second Circuit Court of Appeals on whether or not this lot's going to be developed. It's going to be developed, it's a matter of when and how. A little history, this lot was divided from the neighboring property of 9 Dogwood Lane under the first cut provision. There isn't really, there's a lack of provision in the state zoning law. It was approved and initialed, the map you have before you, should have before you. It was approved and initialed by M. Howard Beach, which Howard's real name is Morris, You'll see MHP in the right-hand corner. He apparently thought that he had the authority, to approve a paper road on the property, and did so prior to me filing the map. He actually helped design the map with the surveyor, and then after it went through the design process for months, he took a look at it, initialed it, and allowed it to be filed. Sometime after that, I purchased it from the LLC that owned it, which I was the member of, and applied for a building permit. At which time Mr. Glidden said that we don't think, on further review, we don't think it's a building lot at all. You lack the 200 feet of required frontage for an R40 zone. I appealed that decision to ZBA. ZBA agreed with him. I appealed that to state court and lost. I went to the ZBA during that time period and asked for a variance. I said, I've got 50 feet of frontage, I'm required of 200. And they denied it based on Mr. Glidden and Attorney DiCrescenzo's advice. From the first denial by Mr. Glidden, he had suggested that I apply for a rear lot subdivision in this property. And that was based at the time on me remerging the properties together, even though the other property is owned by others. You know, I'll say I did have control over it, but it was owned by others, and then applying for a rear lot subdivision. So if you look at the map you have, or you should have, even if it were merged together, it wouldn't have qualified for rear lot subdivision, because Dogwood only has 50 feet of frontage as well. And it makes no sense to punish the people on Dogwood by bringing more cars. We're punishing the owner of Lark to bring the cars all the way around and go out Dogwood. It's the same amount of frontage. They're both cul-de-sacs. Why bring them out that way? It makes no sense whatsoever. But he said no. And when I explained to them that I do not own property next door, even though I was a member of it, shortly thereafter I didn't own it at all. It was a completely unrelated person who owned it. They continued to say you need to apply for a rear lot subdivision. And they ought to be given credit because they duped two judges, a state judge and a federal judge, into thinking this was a viable option. I do not think it's a viable option in any way, shape, or form. And I'll go to the notes listed by Mr. Abbott. Even though I live in Lakeville now, I lived in Simsbury for 13 years. I raised 4 kids here. 3 went to the high school. This is the affidavit submitted to both federal and state court. One for everybody. Mr. Glidden made saying that the property, I should give it to you? Mr. Glidden said the property could qualify, in his opinion, for rear lot subdivision. I believe that to be a lie, and I stated that in court several times. Mr. DiCrescenzo also stated to the state court that he believed the lot, even though in its current configuration, it qualifies as a building lot without being merged with any other property. And he did so. I grieve Mr. DiCrescenzo to the state bar for making that statement. He said, you know it cannot qualify without being merged with another property. And he responded, this is a copy of his response to that grievance, several times. I'll only read one of them.
Excuse me, Tim.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Sure.
You're here to present an application, substantially application for a rear lot on this property according to our zoning regs.
Well, I'm not really applying for a rear lot. I'm applying to use the
Our
property.
actions here will be constrained by the zoning regulations and whether or not your application conforms to it.
I understand that. I'm not really applying for a real lot subdivision. The lot's divided. I'm asking you to, well, I was told to ask you. I'm asking for it, but only because the court said do it. In federal court, Judge John Hall, the chief judge in federal court for the United States of America, said, just do it. They deny it, come back to me, basically. So what I'm saying is that I'm asking to use the property as in its current configuration under the rear lot subdivision regulations. Okay, I understand your point though. So going to the memorandum of Mr. Rabbit, he said the applicant has not demonstrated that the lot and/or areas subject to this application existed prior to 1969 as required by Article 7. It hasn't. I totally agree with him. It has not. Are you allowed to waive that? Mr. Chairman, are you allowed to waive that requirement?
We don't waive.
You can't waive anything, can you?
Yeah, again, Mr. Chairman, the purpose of the public hearing is to receive testimony.
Correct.
Yeah, and I don't think you can waive it, is what my point is. And his next statement is the applicant did not demonstrate that the lot of record has met all the frontage and yard requirements in the applicable zone in existence at the time of the creation of the lot per Article 7, Section C, 8B, development of lots. Because it does not, nor will it ever. The only way it would is if the road was approved. And that would have been, it wouldn't be a rear lot, it'd be a regular lot. So, this is the court, and Mr. DiCrescenzo, the fate, your town attorney, your planner ran out the door, said this is a viable option for you, and convinced a state and federal judge that it was a viable option, and got me my case dismissed without prejudice, because they're both coming back, and both still pending, and once before the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, saying this is a viable option. I think they knowingly did as a lie, but here I am. I'm saying it. And I'm going through his list of why it doesn't qualify. I'm agreeing with him. Number 4, the applicant has not demonstrated that the lot line from which the right to access leads shall be considered the front lot line of the rear lot or both the rear lot and front. You're right. I don't know where the front lot is. I don't know what he doesn't know because he didn't really believe it ever got this far. And what I do have in reference to A2 surveys and proposed development plans. I've got 11 copies of the proposed development plan. That was the original plan when I applied for building permit. I submitted it. It's for a less than 3,000 square foot house on 3 acres of land. It's designed by an engineer. I have a copy with a wet stamp, raised stamp. That's not in there.
Do you have it?
I have it, but I don't want to give it, surrender it, but I'll give it to you. I want it back.
You can't give it back.
Can you give it back? All right,
You
take
give
it.
it to us.
Do you need all 11 copies? Or 6? So as far as item, yeah, 5, 6, 7, I just complied. I'm sorry, 5 and 6, I just complied. And 8. Item 7, the applicant has not demonstrated that he complies with requirements of Article 7, Section C8, governor law. The applicant did not supply information regarding conformance with the following requirements. Water lines, blah, blah, that's all in that plan. So item 7 is in the plan too. Item 8 is in the plan. Items 5, 6, 7, 8, they're all in the plan. And lastly, his item 9, Article 7, C8 states that the town zoning commission may grant a special exception to allow the rear portion of a lot of record in the R40 zone be divided to create one new residential lot with no street frontage where specific conditions for the zoning regulations are met. The applicant has not clearly identified what the original parcel is that he's proposing to divide. I absolutely agree. There is no parcel divided. It's already divided. And let me just, I know that sounds crazy, but let me say it, read a couple of Mr. DiCrescenzo's responses when I agreed to it. He states, under oath, I said, he informed me that it was his opinion of the town that I should remerge the property with the property it was divided from 9 Dogwood Lane, which was now owned by others, and apply for a rear lot subdivision under the Simsbury zoning regulations, Article 7, C8, rear lot subdivision, which is attached. He responded, apparently the others, Martin appears to be rendered at Dawes Construction, which is a single-member limited liability company he controls, which is owned by 9 Dogwood Lane, until the deed was conveyed to Martin individually reported in February 2003. A rear lot special exception permit, if issued, does not require lot merger. So if it doesn't require lot merger, well, how am I accessing this property? The only way I can access property is on the 50-foot right-of-way I have on Lark. It doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't qualify as rear lot. The rear lot definition from the town of Simsbury, the rear lot definition, lot rear, a lot, the major portion which lies in the rear of another lot that separates it from a public street. No. Which is connected to a public street via private access way required with? No. Any lot which does not satisfy the minimum lot width measured along the right-of-way line of a public road or measured along the minimum front building setback line shall be considered a rear lot. No. So it doesn't qualify as a rear lot. Under your regulations, I'm here, it's semantics. I don't want to get my application denied for being incomplete. I think it's complete. And I think that Attorney DiCrescenzo and Mr. Glidden dropped the bomb on you and is dragging you down a path that you might not want to go. Okay? I want to finish up, but if anybody else wants to speak, go ahead. Do you have any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
No, at this point.
Not at this point.
Yes.
You said that you had something more.
Oh, I said if I wanted to finish, I'm sorry, if Mr. Rabbit wanted to add something, I didn't want to give up my opportunity to rebut it or speak on it.
This is a public hearing, you
Jump in anytime.
can speak.
That's it. I'm gonna say that I think it's crazy. I'm not looking for a modification of my lot in any way, shape, or form. I'm looking to use it just the way it is. Can't use it the way it is under the law, then I can't use it
It
the way it
appears
is.
that some judges have ruled that you can't use it the way it is that correct?
Some judges no, that's not correct. Some judges have ruled that I can use it the way it is, I just haven't asked you for it, the opportunity to do that. That's what the judges have ruled. They said as soon as you get the zoning commission, as per Mr. Glidden and Mr. DiCrescenzo, say you can't use it the way it is, come back to us. Because then we're going to make a decision on the inverse condemnation of your property. That's what they ruled. My dismissals were based on rightness, both of them. And it wasn't, I still have a pending case, a very strong case in the state, and I have a very strong case in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, which is semi-represented by the Pacific Legal Foundation, a foundation that goes out of its way to help people on land use cases and supports their constitutional rights to use their land or be compensated so the government doesn't take them or take a regulatory taking without compensation.
Okay, our role here is to help you to try to get the best use of your properties. And if the court's advice was to apply for a rear lot, then we will process that as you did, but we'll just have to continue. If you complete the application process, we'll look at our regs and make a determination.
I think I did complete the application process.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, from an
Yes.
administrative standpoint, and it's covered in my cover letter, Mr. Martin has a copy of that. The application was live in September, that's the official date of receipt. You had 65 days to schedule the hearing. You've done that. According to state statute, you have 35 days to close the public hearing, and then from the close of the public hearing, 65 days to make an extension. The applicant can consent to 65 days of extensions at any point in the process. So if the hearing needed to be continued beyond 35 days, someone could consent to an exception and keep it open. But again, you have a choice this evening to either close the hearing or continue the hearing. I think an important question to ask the applicant would be is that if there's no additional testimony from the public, and there are some members of the public who may be here to testify in this application, if he feels that his application as submitted is complete and whether or not he feels he needs to submit any additional information. And the reason I state that is if you close the hearing, no new additional information can come from the applicant. Not to you, not through staff, not through any third party. You have to make the decision on what is contained in the application packet submitted by the applicant as part of the hearing process. You have access to staff, and you have access to counsel after the hearing's closed, or the town engineer as staff, and we can advise you based on information submitted during the hearing. So,
Okay.
it may be appropriate to see if there's any additional members of the public who have anything to say.
Okay, anybody on the commission have any questions or the applicant?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Jamie, to the list of things that were under findings and recommendations, number 8, there's no site plan.
Mr. Martin this evening submitted a one-sheet
Survey.
Site plan.
Okay.
that he referred to as a site plan. It is referenced as drawing C-1, and the title, it's called site plan. It's dated 2/10/14, prepared for Tim Martin, project location Lock Road, Simsbury, Connecticut. It's got a revision, final revision date of 03/17/2014, and it was prepared by Paul Perlswig,
Personally,
PE, professional engineer. It's stamped by a professional engineer. A2 surveys stamped by a licensed surveyor.
I have that too.
This is stamped by a PE.
Okay.
You have a site plan prepared by a PE, but we do not have an A2 survey on file.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Is your A2 survey that the site plan is based on, stamped by, what's that?
It appears to have we were just handed a division plan prepared for Tim Martin, 9 Dogwood Lane, Simsbury, Connecticut, zone R40. It was prepared by Henry C. Cotton and Associates, land surveyors and consultants. It is dated January 18, 2015. It doesn't appear to have a revision date, and it is signed Stephen S. Cotton, LS, and dated 1/18/2012, and there appears to be an ink stamp on it. We'll proceed that. Again, this is information received. Staff hasn't reviewed it for its content to determine whether it contains all the elements that the zoning regulations require.
Tom?
So we want to keep it open.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, it's,
I don't,
We
I don't have,
haven't had
yeah, right.
I'm giving everybody here an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, then we'll have the public make its statements, and then we'll decide whether to keep it open or not. Okay? Is that fair? Anybody have any more questions of the applicant?
Not at the moment.
Not at this time.
Okay. Members of the public out there, do any of you have anything to say about this particular application? Okay, hearing none, I think, I hear people saying that it would be a good idea to keep this open, since we just had a number of
I don't know
items
if you want to
submitted.
ask Mr. Martin whether he would prefer that you keep the hearing open or close the hearing.
I think since you have to look at the documentation you just
I'm not opposed to being closed at this point. That's up to you though, obviously, so, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, just with that being said, the applicant stating that he is not opposed to you closing the hearing, that he understands that the hearing is closed, he cannot submit any additional information.
Well, I would like your opinion, if you think, do you think I've met all the requirements of your memorandum, Mr. Rabbit?
I cannot answer that question this evening. Without reviewing my memo and the information submitted this evening, I can't come to that conclusion.
Well, then I guess we'll leave it open.
Okay. We have a motion to table it, leave it open, continue it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion regarding application 1740 that we continue the public hearing to our next regularly scheduled meeting on
November 20th.
November 20th.
Second?
I'll second it.
Second by Michael Doyle. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, application 1743 of Stephen Repka. Is another public hearing? Mr. Secretary.
Application 1743 of Stephen J. Repka II, owner.
Excuse me, let's have Donna return, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, all
I
right.
forgot about Donna. I will pay.
Tell me.
That could be costly.
Yeah.
Okay, let
All
the
right.
Secretary note that
Yeah.
Donna has returned.
Application 1743 of Stephen J. Repka II, owner for special exception pursuant to Article 7, Section C.9 of the Simsbury zoning regs for the addition of an accessory dwelling unit over the garage of the existing residence on a property located at 347 West Mountain Road, West Simsbury, Assessors Map A18, Block 503, Lot 001, Zone R40.
Okay. You're Mr. Repka?
Yes. And as stated, I live at 347 West Mountain. November will be third year that we're there. I live with my fiancée and her two children, who one is a graduate of Simsbury High School, one's a sophomore at Simsbury High School. And we have a shared driveway with 341 and 345 West Mountain Road. And after we bought it, both houses subsequently have been sold, and one of them, 345, we went into and looked at before while it was being sold, and they have a beautiful bedroom over the garage, and we kind of said, this is a really nice idea. And prior to buying the home, the previous owners converted what is a 4-bedroom colonial into 3. So there's 3 bedrooms currently there, and what we'd like to do is expand over the garage and have my fiance's mother and stepfather move in an in-law apartment.
Okay.
Where we are. So I've already gone to the Department of Health, the Board of Health, and because the house was converted from a 4-bedroom to 3-bedroom, our septic tank and everything is fine. So adding in the addition is not a problem because it's already coded for 4 bedrooms, and thus we're not over a 4-bedroom capacity.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen the drawings of that.
Yeah.
Okay, they have that.
We have drawings.
They have, so all the entrances to the space up above the garage would be all from interior. So, one concern, we have no desire, never ever want to have any rental or whatever. It's purely, really a 4th bedroom, the way that we look at it for the house. The way it's situated, there's plenty of parking. My current lot is 4.3 acres with the other neighbors, so there's no space constraints or parking issues or anything. It'd be 1 car for the 2. And I have spoken, obviously, the sign's up on our property. and have been up, and have spoken to both neighbors, and they're both have stated to me that there's no concern about having the apartment, the in-law apartment above the garage.
Okay. Any questions of from the commission of the applicant?
You said interior. I have the photos of the interior entrances, but there's two of the exterior. There's one that says outdoor, and there's a deck, and then there's one that says the garage back.
I think we were trying to show you that there's many ways of egress.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, she said to show that you could get in from the outside as well, so they have an outdoor directly outside, I said, that's the deck one, and then the other one is really like inside, because it comes from the garage.
Okay.
Sorry, could you stand and state your name and?
Oh, sorry. Hi.
Thank you.
Pam, hi.
Pam.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Thank
took
you.
the picture, so maybe I should be up here.
Thanks.
I dealt with Carrie, so she was very good at guiding me of what she wanted to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's helpful.
So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. She said she just wanted to kind of be sure that whoever was in that bedroom would have access to the outdoors directly. And so there's already a doorway there.
Okay.
I'm curious, Jamie, as far as any records of the house plan or the house description, would it be on record as 3-bedroom or 4?
And that's devoid of record. And Mike's letter alludes to this. And you have in your packet a letter dated October 12, 2017 from Mike Glidden, Assistant Town Planner, regarding this application, that we still need written. Farmington Valley Health needs to review the actual proposal for the accessory dwelling unit and write a letter, correct, what you received testimony to tonight was 4-bedroom, converted to 3, going back to 4, so when it was originally designed, and it's not a super old house where it appears to adhere to the minimum length leaching system for a 4-bedroom house. So going from 3 back to 4 shouldn't be an issue with regards to complying with the public health code. We just need formal correspondence from the Farmington Valley Health. We do not have that yet.
But if it's an accessory apartment,
The
it's
health
still
department
called
looks at
a
bedroom
4-bedroom.
counts. So whether it's 3 in a
apartment.
home and 2 in an in-law apartment, it's 5 bedrooms for
Okay.
the health district. It's the same thing, if you had a large home with 2 kitchens, your septic system is not based on kitchen, it's
Right.
based on bedroom.
Right.
And that's per the state health mission. If you were building a home, I would advise you to upsize your tank, because
Oh,
you
yeah.
do have 2 kitchens.
And that, it's like the conversation I had with the board of health.
So with regards to Mr. Glynn's October 12th memo, there are a few administrative items we need to button up before we would recommend favorable action and pre-draft a memo. And that memo would include a motion. So we'd recommend that you continue this
Continue to the 20th.
to November 20th. I would also recommend that you see if anyone else from the public is here to testify.
Okay, first we have to finish with commission's questions. Does everyone in the commission, anyone have any more questions?
Nope.
Okay, does anyone in the public care to speak to this application? Going once? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, regarding application 1743, I move that we continue this public hearing to our next regularly scheduled meeting on November 20th.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Doyle. Any further discussion?
Can I ask a question? So is the only thing that we need to then get before the
Public
next
hearing's still
one?
Yes.
We have a motion on the table,
You gotta do
a
the
motion
motion.
on the floor.
Right.
You can ask him after.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. hearings. Now we have the application 1740, which we would table since the public hearing is still open.
Right, we need a motion to table. Mr. Chairman, regarding application 1740 of Tim Martin, I move that we table this motion, application.
Do you hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mike Doyle, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 6-0. We table application 1740. Application 1742 is a text amendment, which will have a public hearing on the 20th of November, and we're still awaiting the Planning Commission's recommendation or passing on the text amendment. So we should table this amendment as well, this application.
I move that we table application 1742 until our next regular meeting on November 20th.
Second.
Second by Donna?
By Tom.
Tom. Yvette, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's 6-0.
And
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, regarding application 1743, move that we table this until our next meeting on November 20th.
Second.
Second by Mike Doyle, all in favor?
You
Opposed?
gotta be quick.
Pass. Okay, we're on to application 1749, from Sunlight Construction.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name's Bob Myers, here representing Sunlight Construction, and it's got for notes here as well. I mentioned to you last time we were here, we're looking for three, I think, fairly state clarifications of conditions of approval. And today we got a memo from Jamie recommending approval with, I think it may have been 10, a number of conditions. I think Jamie's going to clarify number 8, but the bottom line is we don't object to any of them.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to this application, we have a letter dated October 16, 2017, addressed to David Ryan, Chairman, Simsbury Zoning Commission, regarding application 17-49, regarding the amendment to the previously approved site plan for workforce housing development, change from multifamily housing to single family, as well as proposed amendments to the construction sequencing related to the slope stabilization on the western portion of the site. Staff has reviewed this application and offers motion in a favorable manner associated with 17-49. There are 11 items contained in that motion. Mr. Attorney Myers mentioned item number 8, and there was a question that engineering had with regards to language in there noting roof leaders potentially being, we'll say, tied into the drainage system. And we just...
Jamie, we don't have a copy of that.
You don't. We'll fix that.
Thank you.
That would be helpful.
That's why I like my laptop to work. Mr. Bizzano, if you're watching.
He's not.
I know he's not, but it's on the record now.
It's not working?
It doesn't pick up the wireless. And I'm the chairman of the Town Technology Task Force.
You gotta have those.
So the buck stops here.
Means I need to stay and
You
fix
have
it.
been blocked.
What's that? I blocked myself.
You've been blocked.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have it either.
So, Mr. Chairman, in the
Yes.
letter I referenced dated October 16th, there was a motion drafted in a favorable manner for discussion purposes. It contains 11 items, and I'll just run through those very briefly. The item number 1 is modify plan to incorporate all the items in this draft motion. 2, clean set of plans be shown and that the coordinates are verified. 2, that the final set is A2T2 and signed appropriately. as well as 4. 5 building permits for home suites labeled SF7 through SF18 on plan set. Building permits may not be issued until that slope is stabilized. Item number 5 mirrors the condition of approval that the Conservation Commission placed on this application as part of their approval process as the Soil and Erosion Control Board for the town. Item number 6 is building permits for proposed new buildings shall not be issued until the commission receives verification from Aquarian Water Company that the configuration is appropriate. Item number 7 is a modification to the sanitary sewer. Item number 8 is potential plan modification, clearly stipulating where the roof leaders are draining to. Item 9 is clarification that the flared end, that an RCP flared end is required for the 8-inch emergency spillway outlet. Item 9 is final design and location of the natural gas main on site. Is reviewed and approved by Connecticut Natural Gas. And item 11 is that we have a copy of the deep stormwater management plan as well as deep's approval letter for the site. I'm available for any questions.
This doesn't say that the approval letter.
Up at the top? At the top?
It says it's the top.
Motion to approve?
Yeah, what I was saying is on item 11, he said that he wants a contingent on receipt of a letter from DEEP accepting the
Yeah.
stormwater management plan.
We have a letter associated with the project proper, but we do not have a copy of the stormwater plan that DEEP based their approval on. So engineering wants a copy of that.
I'm confused. Is it a DEEP letter or is it somebody else's
The
letter?
applicant shall submit a copy of the Connecticut
plan.
DEEP stormwater management plan to the engineering department prior to the issuance of any building permit on site. That will.
That's
copy of
adequate.
That plan, yeah.
It's a previously approved plan that has yet to be submitted to the town.
Okay. Are we, any more questions?
May I add one?
Yes.
Yeah. As Jamie clarified, number 8, we're in accord with all of the conditions of approval. Jamie said what was on your agenda tonight, in addition to changing the 15 multifamilies to, the 18 multifamilies to 15 homes, was sequencing, but I want to be sure that you also know that there's something else in there that gives Jamie the authority to vary the location of the exit road depending upon field conditions.
And on clarity of that, the emergency access road is supposed to be paved and very linear in nature. And when that was laid out, actually did not account for 1 or 2 mature trees that may be in the vicinity of that road. And the applicant in the submission is asking for flexibility with regards to slight modifications of those, and I'll use the terminology of slight, that if it's an adjustment of a foot or 2 to save a mature specimen tree out there, that's what I feel you would be granting to me. If it's taking the emergency access drive and shifting it up against the easterly property boundary or the westerly property boundary, I don't feel that that's included in their request. It's just a slight modification to potentially adjust to save existing vegetation.
I would agree that it shouldn't be moved to either side, as Jamie said, but having looked at the plan myself, I think he may need 4 or 5 feet rather than 2 feet to save a couple of these trees. So I wouldn't want to just say, no more than 2 feet.
It's a minor adjustment, but it can't push the road into a further impact than a buffer.
I never say the same thing.
And how is this covered under our proposed motion?
It's in the application. It's in the application too. So again, you're approving the application as submitted with 11 proposed modifications.
Okay, you happy with that,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Freno?
That was good. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion? Mike, you.
Well, first and foremost, I don't see any language here on the
Single family?
no, the giving Jamie.
It's an
I think it was in our application.
It's written in the application.
So you're
Okay, sorry.
In the application.
Sweet.
Also, because this question didn't come up, with regards to the workforce housing mix, those approvals still apply to this development. We're only, in essence, changing the layout, a construction sequence, and asking for a little minor flexibility associated with the location and UCF. All of the other aspects of the original approval still hold.
Yeah, I guess I made an assumption with that. Sorry, I probably should have asked for clarification. All right. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve application 1749 of William A. Frigno of Sunlight Construction for a proposed amendment to previously approved site plan for workforce housing development change from multi-family housing to single-family housing, and proposed amendment to construction sequencing associated with the property located at 22, 42, and 54 Hoskins Road, Assessors Map H05, Block 403, Lot 041 and H05, Block 404 and Lot 005. Plans entitled Sunlight Construction, Avon, Connecticut, Cambridge Crossing, Hoskins Road, Simsbury, Connecticut, August 27, 2015, revised September 28, 2017. The general development and modifications conditions of approval are as followed. Number 1, draft revised site plans incorporating all plans modifications to date, including those required by the terms of this motion, shall be submitted for review by Commission staff prior to the filing of records set with the Town of Simsbury. Number 2, a duplicate base map appears on all plan sheets, offset slightly, resulting in illegible.
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 There we go.
It was a long night last night. I apologize. Computer problems creep up. Eligible. Notations throughout. It is recommended that the applicant remove the duplicate base map and verify the proposed coordinates shown are correct. Number 3, the applicant should include boundary and existing conditions survey of the property certified to A2/T2 standards as part of the final submitted plan set. Number 4, all final plans shall have the applicable professional stamp and signature. Number 5, building permits for home and suites labeled SF-7 through SF-18 on plan set titled Cambridge Crossing, revision date 9/28/17, may not be issued prior to the stabilization of the adjacent slope until regarding of the slope on the western edge of the project is graded and determined to be stable by the design engineer. Number 6, building permits for the proposed new buildings shall not be issued until the Commission receives verification that the Aquarium Water Company has reviewed and signed off on the proposed configuration for water services. Number 7, the plan shall be modified to include an 8-inch sanitary sewer extending toward each cluster of houses with lateral tie-ins appropriately spaced. Number 8, the plan shall be modified to include roof leaders serving the new buildings as noted on sheet 6.02, notated but not depicted. Number 9, the applicant shall modify the plans and provide RCP flared at the end, the 8-inch emergency overflow outlet at infiltration basin A. Number 10, the applicant shall provide plans depicting final design and location of proposed compressed natural gas main on the site leading to the site approved by Connecticut Natural Gas. Finally, thank you, Lord, the applicant shall submit a copy of the Connecticut DEP storm wastewater water management plan to engineering department prior to the issuance of any building permit on site. And 12, just kidding, my toilet won't be one of these for a while.
Second.
Okay. Any
Jackie?
discussions? Further discussion, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 6-0.
Thank
Carries.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for the show.
No problem. You did good though.
Oh my gosh,
I understood everything.
I didn't. And I was reading it.
Okay. We have application 1752 of Lauren Rosen, Art FX agent. This is for the site plan, unified site plan. Yeah.
Table.
Okay, got tabled to DRB, so we have a motion to table this. Application 1752.
I thought Mike wanted another one.
You want another one?
I haven't caught my breath from the last one.
All right, Mr. Chairman, regarding application 1752 of Lauren Rosen, I move that we table it to our next meeting
Here a
on November
second.
20th.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 6-0. Okay, that's tabled. Okay, new business. We have St. Mary's Church. They're going to remove the temporary.
They're not so temporary.
Good evening.
My name is Henry Thomas. I'm Principal Landscape Architect with the LRC Group. We're the consulting site designers and engineers, landscape architects for the project. Also here tonight is Bill Hayden, Business Manager for the church and school. Rich Reynolds, our staff engineers, worked on the job with us. And Hugh Pearson, architect with Moses Brown Mills. We don't want to give you more than you need to hear or want to hear, so please feel free to reel us in at any point in time if we're giving you more information than you like. We do appreciate your letting us entertain you with this tonight. St. Mary's Church and School is here for a proposed building addition, which will provide space for both the church and school functions and actually physically act as a connector between the two structures. Leaving aside the technical parts of one building versus two buildings or three buildings, I won't entertain that. But effectively, it is a singular structure that can flow both ways in terms of the space it provides. So there will be some educational things that drift over into that space. There will also be some church functions that come into that space. And essentially, we're looking at a two-story connector between the existing church and the existing school. However, it's only connected by a one-story connector on the school end because that's simply a one-story building. Before I get too far into proposed conditions, though, I wanted to walk through the sort of the way things work today. And I know this is probably not particularly easy to see, but just so everybody's on the same wavelength, there are 3 existing curb cuts for the school on Route 10 Hop Meadow. There's the northernmost one with the light at Seminary Road. There's the main entrance, which is almost directly across the street from here, from Saco Street. And then there is the curb cut addition next to the rectory and the church. There's a small exit onto Pent Road, but the primary functions are these 3 exits or curb cuts. Those will still remain in place. Today, from a weekday school standpoint, the majority of traffic from a parent standpoint is happening in here in terms of, well, I take that back. In the morning, there is bus traffic that moves through here. Buses come back, so they're circulating in this area. Parents, do they drop off here, Bill?
They drop off on the north side.
Okay,
North
they
side.
do both. Do their drop off and pick up activity here. So this is gated during the school day. So once the parent drop is done, they leave, that gate closes. Any of the stragglers do show up over here to bring a student late. The bus activity is all in this end of it. So, and presently there is no physical connection from an automobile standpoint from north to south. So if you wanted to take a car from here to the north, you have to go back Top Meadow, come through to back in. The proposal is then the connector being in the brighter red or the darker brown tone, connects to the very back of the church where the two double exit doors are that go into the stairwell. This will be a transition area in terms of taking up that grade. And the floor is slightly higher, right? Yeah, than the school, but basically nominally taken up in a little bit of that corridor section. So it is above the existing parking lot ever so slightly because the parking is below the door and floor elevations. But essentially forms a continuous flow through. So we've already then, by introducing that, we cut off that circulation that used to go through there. One of the things that would have improved the church's functionality in any case would have been a way to get from front to back. And what we've developed is a plan for a connector drive that would go from the rear parking lot or the Iron Horse Boulevard side of the church around the school and connect back to the north parking lot. So simply putting the school in simply putting the addition in creates a lot of reverberation from a site standpoint because of the placement of it. It's the right place to be for the building, but it's a challenge in terms of site. But it's an opportunity then to kind of fix the flow of things. So by providing this connector, we're now able to change circulation patterns in two ways. One is that we will bring buses in at the light and they will exit at the light. So the morning drop off and the afternoon pickup will now come through the light. Buses will circulate. This will be the zone in which they load and depart back out. So they're coming and going at the light, other than maybe an unusual circumstance where there's a daytime trip or something where they might circulate in the front. So that's bus. Parents will be able to enter next to the rectory, circulate around the back, and arrive at this parking lot where there is both a parking opportunity and it circulates as a more or less a one-way loop as well, so that you come in, park, and exit back out, so that hopefully everybody is tending to flow. They will then exit out the light as well. So this drive in back is a one-way drive. What that means is all the parents are going out the light, all the buses are going out the light. There's way less interaction in terms of the school day with that kind of traffic at this intersection. And this is mostly inbound, except that during the school day there would also be a little gate here, as there is a gate here. So you'd still have the same function, simply because this is used as play. It's such a land-poor property that they need all the area that they get. So this is closed. This would close. We have dimension for a hammerhead turnaround, so that during the school day, that if there is anybody that needs to circulate, they can circulate back out. And we are proposing to widen and improve that curb cut to make it two-way. But the net effect is that there's less traffic using these two curb cuts than there would have been otherwise in terms of exit, combined, that is. We still have this as another alternative route out through Pittsburgh. Remaining in front, we've left and developed more as a drop-off than a parking lot, something that can be both gracious and comfortable for driving up and dropping off, perhaps particularly on Sunday mornings, more so than any school activities. During the weekday, this could be a small visitor lot for the school. On Sundays, this could be a very prominent drop and go back out and park. In this case, obviously it's not connected. They do have to go back out to Hot Meadow Street. In terms of getting in and out of this building and these two at the same time, there's a corridor that runs through the building here. So there's a back entrance an Iron Horse Boulevard side entrance, and a Hop Meadow Street entrance that primarily is adjacent to the church. So that's probably more of a church door and church activity. There's a door on this side as well for the school, and this would generally be the primary school entrance. This would be where faculty and staff are parking. This would also be where parents can park as they visit. But there's also nominal parking out here and a way that they get into the same corridor at that connector. Part of what we've been doing in terms of the details on parking is, again, the portables go away. There is parking that's been under that but unavailable forever, or nearly forever. So some of that space
For a
comes
very
back
short
into
period
play.
of time.
I'm sorry, did I
Only
miss-
extended
I
once.
missed- I
I think
misspoke.
since I graduated, they've been there. Okay.
So there are some parking spaces that are regained. In association with the connector drive, we also have picked up a handful of spaces in terms of the dimensions, the way that works. So there's a little bit of a parking bump there. On the north parking lot, there is just, quite honestly, some added dimension that isn't necessary in terms of what you need for the parking lot as it's organized. And so this little green wedge is actually recovered green space. But on the flip side, in order to make the buses circulate more conveniently, we've modified this end of it, or this corner, to allow that flow to happen through and still maintain the same kind of parking counts we had. There's no net change in terms of the parking that is, at this point, in the front within the parking setback. The number of cars are basically the same. For the lot that is behind the church, that is presently operated as angle parking, and it works that way. It's okay for that to be one way because you can always go out here. Now that we don't have that break, we've widened that parking lot to be able to make it 90 degrees and fit two-way. That gives us the ability to have this work during the daytime without the connector being in play. I would expect that those gates would operate open on weekends, fully open and usable for all the church traffic. And one more minor modification is, right now, because this operates one way, these spaces are also angled. So by a little bit of adjustment, we take and remove the sidewalk there and trade that off for pavement for the parking spaces. We can make those 90 degrees and make that two-way, and we end up picking up one parking space there. So the net effect is that we pick up 16 parking spaces compared to existing. They shift a little bit in terms of the number from south to north. There's a few more now on this side than here. But those are all definitely necessary and useful for church activities and Sunday traffic, more so than the school day doesn't demand those. So those are the big parts and pieces. In general, the site flows from front to back, grading-wise. And so everything is ending up either discharged one way or the other out toward Iron Horse Boulevard. When we put this addition in place, this parking lot flows right through right now. So we obviously have to then pick up the water that otherwise would flow overland through this side. We're proposing to gather it up and actually plumb it under the building, just because that's really where it wants to go, rather than route it completely around, which just seems like an absurd amount of plumbing to do. What we are doing is a little bit of stormwater retention in there to attenuate the peak storms so that what's flowing out the back is basically matching. But generally, what your perception probably would be by the time we're done that we didn't do anything, because the parking occupies the same space as it does today. It's nominally in the same elevations. and it will look similar in terms of scale and shape. But the project does touch a lot of that just to make it all knit together the same way. I'd like, if you are open to it, have Rich explain a little bit about how we take up the stormwater and what we're doing with that. So,
Can I do a little on the site
Sure.
before you get there?
Yeah.
So the north parking lot, the play area, that on Sundays that's used as church parking, right?
Correct.
So, but even though it's not lined, they just kind of know where to park.
No, it is.
It is lined. Okay,
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
show on there.
Oh,
Yeah, back there.
yes, it is. It's.
He's showing us
I
the
left
flow.
the existing striping.
Okay, all right. So that
Beyond grade
is.
as
So
well.
there is some way to indicate where the bus
Correct.
flow is.
Yes, yes. We'd be painting out some new islands and restriping a portion of that so that you would be able to discern those islands.
All right,
Correct.
and then the one where the
flow.
existing temporary building
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
That flow is outlined so that they actually come around there. Well,
Right.
wouldn't that keep going around? Because you want your.
And you could.
If you drop your kid off,
If
you'd
you-
want them on the right
If
side.
you're dropping at the curb,
Yeah.
yes, you would do it, and then you would circulate back out. If you're parking and escorting in, you do the same thing.
Right,
This-
so there is a line in there somewhere for a cross.
Yeah, there's striped, and again, we're having to use these spaces for paved play as well, or even other games that normally aren't played on pavement. So it's multi-purpose pavement, but it is in fact striped out for parking. So you have hatched aisles that and paved arrows.
So is there a lane for drop off and a lane for going through?
Well, these are all, this is 24 wide here, this is 24 here, the back road is 18 feet because it's only one way. So in this case, it's one way, but it's got enough for 2 lanes.
Just thinking of the junior high, which has a mirror with kids getting run over.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think
Yeah.
Mr. Hayden may be able to touch upon the perhaps change associated with dropping off and how it occurs and dropping off as designed.
Yeah.
To respond to some of the issues that a few municipalities have had, including a fatality associated with drop-offs and pickups and traffic flows around a school.
I may be. Right now, as Henry said, the buses are going to be dropping off and picking up on this side of the south side of the school.
That's currently.
Yes, currently. Right now, on the north side is what would be for parent, both drop off and pickup. The way that pickup works is
It's quite fascinating, actually.
yeah,
I've done it once.
and survived.
Yeah.
The cars will line up facing the school in parking spots,
Stacked.
so tail to front to tail. Children will be released from their teachers in the parking lot, move to the cars once everybody is deemed safe in their cars. Then cars are waved forward. That first line leaves the parking lot. Once that first line has left the parking lot, the line moves forward. Everybody parks. Everybody's deemed safe and parked. They release the kids.
Right, this is done after the buses leave?
This is
No.
done
No,
simultaneous.
sorry.
Buses are down on the other side of the building.
Oh, yeah, I'm going forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
I explained that process to Jamie, and it looked as if he was going to have an aneurysm.
It's very intimidating.
Yeah.
And then they back into Hot Meadows.
So what we're doing, right? So what we're doing now is with Henry and Jamie's expertise is we're designing a drop off and pickup process that eliminates the kids running into the flow of traffic, whether they're parked or not. Parents getting out, releasing their taking their kids from the staff directly, so they have possession of the kids from the school to the car, and the flows will facilitate that.
Yeah,
No, so in going forward,
Mm-hmm.
where do teachers park?
Going forward, where the teachers park.
Yeah,
Going
on
forward,
that.
they'll park
Okay.
on the south side, the east side of the church, what's
Okay.
currently called the back side of the church.
All right. So no kid will be picked up in that little north section where the buses are then.
Not by cars, no. This is
Okay.
buses, and this is parents.
Parents.
Correct.
You don't foresee like jam?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Which
there's
is
one at
killing
the high
you.
school, I can tell you.
Yeah,
I think
Right at the drop
it
off.
was 33,
It's like,
33 parents.
Yeah,
That's
it's
35.
I think that I think that the biggest thing with this is we're making improvements. If it won't be perfect because of the lot size, right? There's only so much we can do. But one of the advantages is right now, if you drive up Hot Meadow around 3 o'clock on right, then you'll
They're
see
lined
that
up.
there are cars lined up in front of the school on Hot Meadow.
In front of the gate.
Outside of putting a cruiser there and ticketing people, the only thing that's going to stop that from happening is having them queue up here.
Right.
So they'll be out of traffic.
Yep.
That's an improvement.
Yep.
They're gated here, so the control. So we're increasing the level of control that we have over the parking flow, the pickup
Like you
flow.
said, the cars, it's much less. The car traffic is much less
Yes.
than the buses, believe it or not.
Yeah.
The people that come and drop off their cars is not as significant as the bus traffic.
We would have. It feels, if you've done it, it
I've
feels
done it.
really bad.
Feels like
It
a
does.
lot.
But
It
there's,
does.
but it actually amounts to being just about 30 cars. Maybe on a heavy day, it's
Really?
35 cars. So it's actually not that. It's not that onerous if it's organized well.
Mr. Chairman, our primary review with the church was really looking at how the pedestrian school and parent drop-off functions and how the bus drop-off functions and trying to pull them apart and then look at what their policy was. And in discussion with Bill, that his statement of the parent will pick the child up, it's planned to, at the door. So the child is released to an adult before they enter a traffic pattern. Primarily now, it's a teacher who enters with the child into a traffic pattern to a car. So we're moving some of that responsibility closer to the school, back to a parent who will be more cognizant of where they parked, what's happening around them, back to the car, and separating it from the bus circulation.
It might
Well,
not be perfect, but I definitely think it's better.
and clarify that then in the afternoon, so the parent now has to park in one of those
They're parked.
the
Yep.
line spots
Parking in there.
and then get out and go get the kid.
And quite honestly, to get the most efficient parking layout, it made sense to put a drive lane there. But it's also good in terms of security and emergency and things like that.
And what you
So-
see, Ms. Gray, I've had this experience is in one scenario, the existing scenario, you have faculty who can release X number of students per 10 minutes. In an adult pickup out the door, you could release, in essence, 10 children at a time to 10 parents who are standing there versus the faculty having to go, come back, go, and come back. So your potential turnover in that parking lot will be more efficient. Will be more efficient.
Excuse me.
Can you tell me what the dark green is?
That's existing vegetated area that's not lawn. So it's woody, I'll call it.
And there's the retaining wall?
Yes, this is it's a retaining wall with a guardrail and a fence. It's amazing how many layers you have to have in an object like that. At its most, it is not quite 7 feet tall right in here. Once you start going this way, it's really more like 5 to 4 to 3. So the peak is somewhere right in here at that corner.
Yeah, it's sloped there.
Correct. And then at the same time, we're having to maintain a well-like access to a lower floor storage room. That is, and again, if you never had a reason to be behind the school, you wouldn't know that existed. But there's a little bit of a basement right there. So that's a sloping walk that goes down to a lower landing. So effectively, when we build this connector drive, we're essentially building 2 walls and then filling up the driveway in between it. And what we've done is tried to grade this down as quickly as we can, within reason, no more than 5%, to keep this wall as low as possible. And then we rise back up to the front of the school. So we actually probably take 3.5 feet of pitch in the driveway down to that lowest point.
So is there a well in there that will accumulate water?
There's a little well, it's got an area drain in it.
All right, to go back to my circulation. So the door on the I don't know what you call it, the east parking lot. How do we prevent kids from going? Are you preventing kids from going in through there?
So
That's your business plan, right?
That'd be this.
here, kids entering here.
Yeah.
There would be the only time that would happen is if parents were coming into the school for some reason. So if they were accompanied by their parents, but all children would enter on the north side.
This would lead you to the offices.
Yeah. Daytime parents would go in, so parents would enter here if they had school business, and faculty and staff would enter there.
So they may, in fact, park.
So if for some reason a child was with
the parent tries to skip the line.
Yeah,
you know.
I was-
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Have you been at the school? Yeah.
Starbucks.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is plan, and there is. I mean, we're developing the management plan to discourage that. But just like we have for as long as I've been there, I've been telling people, please don't queue up on Hot Meadow Street. They queue up on Hot Meadow Street. So I couldn't say that kids are never going to enter there, but they'd always be entering with their parent, and we don't release kids out of the building without the parent physically inside the building to do that. So.
Well, I was thinking in the morning.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that there will be some number of people who try and cheat the system and drop off.
Well, because you could use that circle in the front too.
However, this new pattern reduces the benefit of that. So there will be today with the buses on the south side of the school building, and the parent queue on the north side. There is some benefit to them to try and drop their kid off and have them go in the south side of the building. We've stopped that. We won't allow children to go in that way because they'll drop them off at the curb and have them run in. There's a benefit to that. In this, there won't be a time benefit to the parent to do that, to try and drop off there, because they'll have to go back out against the flow of traffic. Right. I mean, the dominant flow of traffic. So there won't really be a benefit to doing that. They'll have to use the hammerhead turnaround. It won't be beneficial to them.
No, why wouldn't there be? Because that won't be.
So if they come up in the morning,
Not a good term.
if they're coming up in the morning, they have to come in here. And but if there's here, then they're into that flow of traffic, and so they won't be saving any time by doing that. So they might as well just rather than stop here, they just stop here where they're supposed to.
Now, if they're late, then that gate is closed.
Yeah.
And they would need to check in through the office anyway.
Right. Correct.
So it would be ready.
From my perspective and talking with the school, and similar to any school, the days of unlocked doors don't exist anymore. Every door in this facility is locked in the morning. So if you go to an exit that's not identified as the primary exit, that door is locked and you would have to be queued or sanctioned in. And if that's considered their back of house in the morning, that door probably won't be monitored to let someone in.
But the one in the new building could be open, and you could go to the church, and so you could go through the church and around.
I'm sure their security plan will have that lock mechanism between church and school.
I don't know. We have this building. You have an entrance here.
Yeah.
This is the security perimeter. So if you try to come in here and go down this corridor, there's a locked door here. So when the school's in session, this door will be locked, so they wouldn't be able to access from these doors.
Okay.
So the only entrance would be on the north
Are
side.
there sidewalks anywhere?
Yes.
For
The yellowish tone.
Does it go around the back of the school?
No, it doesn't.
No, we don't run them around
Yeah.
that side just because it's not really wide enough that we want to encourage that at all.
I don't think you want that
Yeah.
pedestrian.
On a Sunday, for example, this will be an open corridor to get, if you parked out here, to get through. And hopefully this increases the perception of proximity, that it's closer.
And
This-
a lot of people use the front.
Right,
walkway
this is
as a
still the
turn.
existing
Yeah.
walk that would remain, right?
Yeah.
Right. Should we move back to the drainage question? Do you care?
It's a good plan.
So obviously there's not a basement.
Only a very marginal basement here in regards to the elevator and a little bit of mechanical space.
Which connects to the existing church basement.
Could show you the building plan, the architecture, if you want to see that.
Now that we got the kids in safe.
You, how about you step up?
I've seen people drop their kids in the street
You're gonna drop off on Iron Horse.
and then they walk around the building. Yeah.
I could just look out the window.
It's a little dark.
Oh, that's right. It's 8:30.
Are they excited about this? Church and school?
Yes, very. Yes, very much.
Big difference.
Looking at the plan, this is the school over on this end and the church over here.
No, I'm just
And the sense of it is, this is that narrow, small connector that Henry was mentioning. Within that, this would be the primary school entrance point from the east parking lot. So they would come in, they'd be buzzed there, they would again have to come through this door to get into the school. This is sort of a locked little vestibule area, so that prevents people from coming in this way, thinking they're going to the school and then running off to go to other places. So it's controlled, also access control to keep them from going upstairs to the second floor. So the main element is this Parish Life Center is sort of the main multi-purpose gathering space, multifunction, which faces out into Hop Meadow. There's some windows across the front, there's some glass in this intermediate wall and glass in this back corridor. So there's a sense of light through the building, as there is a sense of a lot of light through this connector. The statue of St. Mary is in here. We'll reposition the statue and try to create a bit of a courtyard here that can be used for small ceremony. And beyond that, and public toilets off of the corridor. This main reception area has an alcove off to that where there'll be a baptismal font, statue of St. Mary as well, and potentially a statue of St. Joseph. Also, there's a large stained glass window in this end wall, and there are two small memorial windows on either side. One of those will be removed to allow for these doors to enter into the church itself. And that window there will be relocated over into this new addition as well. So all of the stained glass will be saved. What happens from this reception hall is people can come in from either lot for church functions, enter the Parish Life Center, or go up a small flight of open stairs and then enter into the church. As you're aware, there's grade and school, and then the church, you go up a half level to the church, you go down a half level to the basement. So next to that is the elevator, which then connects the second floor to this landing at church level, to this reception area, and then goes down to serve the basement. So in a very small building, you have a 4-stop elevator. Also an egress stair serving the second floor. And this is the current, if you're familiar with the building, there's a stair right in this corner here, which is an entrance off of the parking area. We're removing that stair. We'll build in a toilet room, which can then be on the same level as the church, main church floor, and serve the elderly or handicapped that might be attending church. The remainder of that area can be converted into a storage area, so they can gain some storage in that way. Moving up to the second floor, either by 2 stairs or elevator, you'll have the parish offices, which are currently across the street. So they want to bring them onto the campus. And then also coming from the school's end of things, some school activities will come here, use the stair, and have sort of a reading room, small library type of space, and or an art multi-purpose type of space as well. So essentially two larger spaces that can be somewhat multifunctional, multi-purpose for school activities. And essentially it's these two spaces are what are currently sort of in the portable structure out in the north parking lot. So also band or some of the music activities will take place in the Parish Life Center. So it's a scheduling thing as much as it's a parish and church activities. There will also be some school activities in here that can happen. So it becomes a very active hub gathering space for all purposes. And much of the primary concern of this whole project was really there was so much a sense of there's a school and there's a church and there's almost two communities under one name. And this is helping to bring and blend the functions together and try to get everybody to think as one mind of one church and one parish community. That's a quick rundown on the building. Obviously some photos of the church. Tell me if you want me to stop. Looking at so from the site, one of the original intents was obviously to maintain the facade of the main church, which has the greatest amount of architectural detail and interest. So that is closer to the street, about 100 feet to the middle of Hot Meadow. The school is about 90 feet to the middle of Hot Meadow, but we wanted to keep this connection back a little bit. So there's a little bit of an alcove here, a little bit of a rest for the eye. So you still have a school set, which has a fair amount of landscaping and trees around it. So it's somewhat screened. So the prime edifice is the face of the church, still facing Hot Meadow, and that doesn't change. Sort of looking at it a little bit in elevation, but also a little bit in a perspective view with the church here and the connector is set back. Brick facade up to a point, and then a clapboard type of siding up above that. Give it a little light, make it not feel quite so heavy in terms of full masonry. Essentially a large hip type of roof structure, but over what would be the main entranceway for the church activities facing the meadow. The set of double doors there. You have your parish offices up above here with some more windows, and we introduce a gable end dormer there just to add emphasis here. There are a couple of masonry piers on either side, and the gable roof are reminiscent of the piers and gable end roof over the main church. We have a secondary sort of projection off of the building. This projects out, it's probably 1.5 to 2 feet in that area right now, and this would project out also a similar distance. Again, sort of a large blending of windows. We had some variations of the window patterns before, but this has given us the nice balance in terms of an element here, giving you balance across, and then a repetitive pattern in the middle. Another small dormer here, but more of a hip type of dormer, so it wasn't competing with this dormer. It sort of was still a little subservient, but it helped to break up the long roof line of the building.
That secondary bump out, how does that relate to the site plan inside? To the floor plan inside? Is it?
It's in the Parish Life Center and the art room above it.
And what does it do?
It doesn't do an awful lot.
Because you said it was how far? A foot?
It could be internally a foot up to 2 feet. We're debating. We've had 3 meetings now with the design review board, so there's a little bit of discussion and negotiation going on with those folks. So. But it's looking like it might project out about 2 feet to create a little more architectural interest on facing Hot Meadow. And it does give you a little bit of square footage there. It could be an area.
Really flat.
No, I'm just wondering how it function it serves on the inside.
There's hardly anything on the inside. You can see the bottom.
If the
Plan
bump,
there,
Mr.
yeah.
Chairman, for me, Jamie Rafford, Director,
Yes, sir.
if the bump out's a little more, it could accommodate a window seat.
A window seat or something. At 12 inches, it doesn't do much.
It started at a few inches. It's at 18 now. There's discussion on whether it should go to 2 today.
So it's just form over function. Okay.
So just another view, if you're sort of closer to the school side, of what the Hot Meadow side might look like, and then this is a view from the back side if you were just about to take the drive behind the school. also the brick and the clapper type siding. There is a piece of roof where we've created a well to locate all the rooftop units. They are set back as far as we can get them. There's a guardrail across the front of that, which is also set back a little bit. So for the most part, if you were walking or parking in this lot, you probably wouldn't even be aware of them. But certainly as you back away further and further, you really still have to kick your head back and have some sense of mechanical units or.
On the left-hand side there, is there some kind of ramp or something?
Yeah, that's the existing rear of the church. It's an existing ramp.
So that'll remain, but the elevator is really their biggest gain, but provides them really more access to the basement than anything else. But a person in a wheelchair or some.
There is no handicap access to the basement, no?
Currently, there is no handicap access to the basement. The handicap accessibility is a major major positive element to the project.
Is there any from the front, or do you have to come to the back?
There's no handicap entrance in the front. So this would give handicap two handicap entrances now. You have the ramp that goes that. By the time you get up to the top of the ramp, you're on the south side of the building, and then you'd have the north side elevator. Hugh also mentioned there's handicap accessible restroom now at the church level, which is a big deal for the elderly.
Drainage.
What's all about drainage?
You want to come back to drainage? All right, they're clamoring for you, Rich. Let's see. I don't know if you want to talk over that one or a detailed one, which no one will be able to see.
Do you have wetlands behind you?
We do have just a sniff of wetlands. That's significant. I don't know that you'll discern anything there.
Good evening, my name is Rich Reynolds. I'm with the LRC Group. I'm a staff engineer with the company. I just want to go over quickly the proposed storm drainage, and we're going to touch a little bit on the location of wetlands on the property. Touch on the wetlands. First of all, there's an existing head wall over in the northeast section of the property. That head wall drains some of the drainage from the state road and some of the on-site drainage on the property. A small portion of the property in this corner has some wetlands, and they were located by our soil scientists. The proposed parking area in the front of the addition, what we're going to do is we're going to collect some of the stormwater there and put it underground into some stormwater chambers. Any overflow from the stormwater chambers will be directed out to where the drainage currently goes to Iron Horse Boulevard. As Henry stated before, the site generally flows easterly towards Iron Horse Boulevard, so we try to mimic that existing flow pattern. So in this front portion, like I said, we're going to attenuate the stormwater runoff using some plastic chambers. Also, when we did some site work out here, we did some borings, and we looked at the existing soil conditions. We did some permeability tests on the underlying soils to see how well the soils would accept water. So a portion of the stormwater is going to be filtered through the underlying soil. We're going to have some outlet structures associated with this underground detention to attenuate the stormwater runoff. The back portion here, since we're putting in a retaining wall, we didn't want to put the stormwater underground just due to the location of the proposed wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to contain that stormwater runoff in drainage pipes, and then we're going to throttle that stormwater through an outlet structure, and it's going to discharge in the same location that it does now. For every storm event on site, we've mimicked the pre-developed conditions or the condition prior to the development, such that the flows leaving the site are the same as they are today after the development of the site.
So the ones going towards Hot Meadow Street, towards Iron Horse, are connecting to a drain, or are they open after they leave your site?
Some of them are open, currently open.
Yeah, there's two that are open. Well, there's two that are open here. There's a third that is open that is primarily roof drainage now, I think. We're going to pipe that one directly to the basin. But these other two, we were going to use the outlets that are there today. This one obviously is much larger than outlets to the wetland already.
Yeah, and that's Westminster. What's the property over there?
That's Westminster, correct. Most of the pond is off over here. We have just a fingernail-sized piece of that, but it's where the outlet is. And that, just to further amplify what Rich was saying, there's a DOT easement here, and the origins of this are primarily for the DOT's drainage of Hot Meadow Street. There's a little bit of, there are a couple of basins that the school throws into there for a long, long time. But the rationale for the size of this, which is 36 inch, was primarily for the street. Not to make this a wetlands meeting, but the condition of the head wall is leaning, and the last section of pipe is actually separated and disjointed. So now the flow from above is actually not, some of it is probably going through the pipe, a lot of it's going under it and around it. And so at some point that's going to continue to undermine. In the meantime, it's leaving a fairly large pile of sediment behind. And so the proposal here is to replace that head wall, replace that lowest section of pipe, and build a plunge pool to actually do a better and more sophisticated job of catching sediment. So even though our numbers don't warrant doing anything there in terms of stormwater, we're repairing the condition, we're correcting the condition. And that really needs to, that would be a subject of discussion whether or not any of this was actually transpiring. So, and that plunge pool is what's below the floodplain or at the floodplain that requires us to have the special exception conversation next time around. That's the one. Is that it? Okay. Only last item that I wanted to mention was that we, from a site lighting standpoint, there's a lot of lighting that's already on the building, mounted on the roof, on the doors, and so on. We are proposing to add one pole-mounted fixture at either end of this parking lot, pointed this way, and we're proposing to use very thin, low-profile LED fixture with a 3000 K color temperature so that it's warm. We're not looking at doing the whole premises, certainly not at this point in time. So we're just trying to sort of fill in some gaps that exist back here. There will be lighting, of course, probably associated with these doorways in terms of lanterns or some such thing on the doorways there. But we're not talking about a whole lot of lighting there. And then last item would be, after sitting in with the design review board tonight, I fully expect that over the next week or two I'll be readjusting landscaping around the perimeter of the building and probably have a fresher conversation with you next time around. So,
is there a cafeteria in this school?
There's a Catholic gymatorium.
There was a kitchen.
You get food deliveries. I say.
Yeah, no, there is the existing parish center acts as the cafeteria for the school day. There is a kitchen, but it's not used actively for preparing meals. It's just
you don't have food delivery, big trucks.
No.
We get a Fitzgerald's Chuck on Fridays for pizza for them.
And that there's an entrance right here. So part of the rationale for keeping the courtyard open is to be able to have access to it. potentially.
For that whole, the school, where's the trash area? It's way over there. Okay.
Exists right here now, and we're moving it to the corner. Also,
Building a new surround.
screening it a little bit better than it is today in terms of a new surround and a new pad. So I think it'll be tidier for sure. And I don't think I have any more information to throw at you.
What's the timing of your construction?
Desire is to be in the ground after the new year, break ground.
After the new year, weather permitting. But they're looking to, BB&E has been hired on as the construction manager. And so they're looking to receive biddable documents end of November, middle of November, start to break out bid packages and create a bidding pool and begin to see if we're able to then put it out there and bring costs in through before the end of the year and see if we can get contracts signed. And weather permitting, they'll start right away after the new year.
And when do you remove the temporary building?
Oh, jeez.
No more than 5 or 10 years.
The earliest possible second. We would expect that if everything stays to schedule, we would be finished construction at the end of 2018. So that would be, if everything stays to schedule, we'll be ahead of the extension.
Right. I was thinking we're inside the window there. The end of the year or before the beginning of the school year?
Well, no, I would expect that if everything works out, we would remove the temporary units over the Christmas break next year. That's what we're hoping. Ideally we would finish this construction, and the school would then start to use it when they came back from the Christmas break. So that.
But then you have site work to do.
There may
after.
still be a little ancillary site work. You can sort of work up around the edges.
That's your parking lot.
Yeah, well, right now I've got the seam right there, but that's primarily so we can make the grades work. So you could probably pretty readily get this around and finish up the drive, but you may have a little piece of pavement underneath there and come back and
finish in the spring.
Finish the gap in between. Yeah.
Good, thank you very much.
Yep.
We recommended that we table 1753 until our next meeting, which is the 20th of November.
Do we have what we need by then? Mr. Rabbit, do you think by the 20th?
Engineering is, as well as your staff has undertaken, we're deep into our review, so we're anticipating having comments from engineering hopefully within a week. Then those comments go back to St. Mary's as the applicant, and they should have sufficient time to address them. One thing to be pointed out,
okay, we can retable it.
that we have been actively participating in the discussions with St. Mary's in the development of their plans. So a lot of the information submitted to you this evening is not new to us. It's not.
Do they have to go back? I think you asked. Do they have to go back in front of design review?
Yes, they will be back before DRB on the 20th.
And wetlands at some point.
Wetlands, they will be receiving applications tomorrow with a hearing scheduled in November.
So I think they've already received it last
Did they
year.
receive? Okay.
Because we are new business. We're not under applications to be received. So I think it's.
Again, timing-wise, we're trying to work in that November 20th timeframe.
Mr. Chairman, regarding application 1753, I move that we table the application until our November 20th meeting.
Jackie would like to second.
Second by Jackie Patos.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, application 1754 is to schedule a public hearing on the special
Thanks.
exception.
Thank you very much.
It looks awesome. Thank you very much.
Look,
Thank you for the awesome.
1754 is to schedule a public hearing,
My
so
hair when we started.
need a motion
All right,
to,
did we get a 1750, or do we have to vote to accept 1754? It's not on the agenda.
1754 is under receipt of new applications, agenda item 2. If you want to be conservative, as Mr. Gray had stated, it would be appropriate to add the receipt of application 17-54 to your agenda.
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
You good?
Okay,
Just trying to be efficient.
now let's schedule a public hearing. And a motion to schedule a public hearing?
Right, wise guy.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, just for clarity for the record, on application 17-54, your motion was to schedule a public hearing for November 20th, 2017 at 7 p.m. in the town hall.
That's what I heard him say.
Exactly what I said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second was for that, because that's what he said.
Okay, and our town attorney is not here tonight, so I think anything from the staff?
Nothing new to report, Mr. Chairman.
What do you think, Kevin?
About that?
About
Or adjourning?
No, we want you to adjourn.
I'm going to let Michael do it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.